Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love money, mind. Love money, mind. This is Freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, this is Anna and welcome to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. And in this episode, I interview Travis Chappell. Travis is the founder and CEO of Guestio, which is a new software that connects high-level guests with high-level content creators. He's also the host of the top-rated podcast show, Build Your Network. And in addition to being featured in Entrepreneur and Yahoo Finance, Travis has also been featured in Forbes as a top 10 podcast that will change your life alongside Joe Rogan, Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss and many others. I'm really excited about interviewing Travis. He's a top guy. I met him recently on the Clubhouse app and I know you're going to love this interview. So, hi Travis, I really appreciate you giving me the time today because I know we connected on Clubhouse in the boom of Clubhouse back in January, February time. So I really appreciate your time today.
Happy to be here and see if I can help at all.
Yeah, fab stuff. So I put this podcast together back in July of last year. And I've had some cool interviewees so far. Grant Cardone kind of helped me boom this podcast with its sort of downloads. So it's great to have you. And just so you know, the Freedom Podcast is, we have 3 pillars: love, money, and mind. Love being all about sort of self-care and spending time on you, because I know as busy business owners, sometimes we can neglect that balance. Money being all around financial freedom, and mind, for me, encompasses it all. And I went through a bit of a challenging time back in 2015, the breakdown of my marriage. And this is why I put this podcast together, because I think sharing sort of inspirational journeys on building businesses because we've all had challenges, we've all had different adversities along the way, just some a little bit more traumatic than others. So it's great to have you on. And I know you've built a phenomenal business with Build Your Network, and relationships are really important to you. So I just kind of wanted to open up really and tell our listeners how this Build Your Network came all about, really.
Yeah, sure. So it was kind of an accident, to be honest with you. I just knew that I wanted a podcast and I didn't really know exactly what that meant or how I was going to be able to figure it out or what I was going to talk about. And at the time, the only thing that I really knew anything about was sales, because that was all I had done. I was just a door-to-door sales guy and did pretty well with it. And I, trained teams and recruited and managed and wore different hats in door-to-door sales organizations other than just a salesperson. But that was really the only thing I felt comfortable talking about. But when I went to iTunes and typed it in, I saw that there were, thousands of podcasts that talk about sales. And I didn't know much about that at the time, but I knew enough to know that you probably shouldn't pick something that's that saturated, because it's going to be a little bit more difficult to stand out. So kind of went back to the drawing board, and networking was the second topic that I thought about, because I thought, well, why do I think that I had a successful year selling door to door? What would I attribute that to? And the answer to that was, well, it was just getting around good mentors, people who'd been there, done that, walked the road before me, and then getting around them a bunch and learning from them as much as I could and soaking up as much valuable information as I could, and then applying that to the thing that I was doing, which was door to door. And so I figured, well, this is probably a skill set that a lot of people need. But then I figured it probably would be like sales. But I go to iTunes and I type in networking, and to my surprise, it just nothing really came up. So kind of fell into the networking topic or niche, if you will.
Yeah. So you were in sales. When did you leave sort of like, offline sales? I presume you were you working for a company back then, or
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
did you
So
kind of get to deciding, right, I'm going to do this podcast and work online?
Yeah, I just didn't want to do door to door anymore. And not even to talk crap about the industry. It's a great industry. I have a lot of friends that make a lot of money just door to door sales or starting a door to door company or something. I just knew it wasn't for me. I knew that I didn't want to, I was like 23 at the time, and I just looked forward into the future and was like, I don't know if 33-year-old Travis is going to still be knocking on doors, you know what I mean? And, or being in this industry really. And so at that point, I just decided, probably, I'm a millennial, probably should figure out how to do business online, because that's probably where the majority of my generation is going to be pushing for business, is this online thing. So I should probably figure out how to make some money doing that. And podcasting was kind of the foray into that world. And I basically stopped doing the door-to-door stuff as soon as I could pay the bills through podcasting, which was about 13 months after I launched my show. So
Yeah.
a little bit over a year after I launched, I was able to go full time with it. It was the first time I'd ever stopped doing something to do something else that actually made less money than what I was currently doing. I knew it had potential to make a lot more money, and obviously now it has. But when I left, I was leaving something that was making me six figures and moving to something that wasn't making me six figures, and so it's kind of a
Yeah.
scary transition. But I just knew that it was time to make it happen and pull the trigger.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. You have that gut feeling you just want. There's more to. You've got that entrepreneurial spark in you. There's more to what you've got, and you kind of. Also, it's like learning stuff, isn't it? And it's kind of like throwing yourself into that challenge, even though you feel like you're walking off the cliff at the time. Because I know I felt like that having left the corporate world and going to sort of settle my own online business. So
Yeah.
you kind of just have that drive, don't you, that you're going to make it work, whatever.
Yep.
So when was it your podcast? Because I know there's been a lot of people in this last 12 months. My podcast was a procrastinating podcast that should have been launched the year before. And then when I saw all these people in the pandemic launching more and more podcasts, I thought I better do it now. So when was it you launched Build Your Network?
August of 2017.
Okay, so it's been quite a few years now. So what would you say? Because I know a lot of people have been asking me about, oh, how do you set up a podcast? And there's different kind of levels, isn't there? Different people do different. They call a podcast or they do a podcast. Different. How would you? What have been the main challenges that you've had, and any kind of tips that you want to share people that might be thinking, I want to start a podcast. I mean, I know you could probably do a whole course on all of that, but kind of maybe some of your top things that you'd share that maybe you made mistakes and didn't, weren't aware when you first set it up.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was going to take as long as it did to build up an audience. I just thought that it was going to be a lot faster than that. And a lot of my mentors that I had at the time would have told you the same thing. The problem was that my mentors started shows back in 2012, 2013, 2014, when there were not a lot of podcasts in existence. And so if you could get a good media feature, or if you could get, ranked in New and Noteworthy or the top charts at that time, you would get an influx of traffic into your show just by having that exposure. And so when I launched, I did it all really well, and we launched at the top charts and got in all these different categories. And then we went back and looked at my media host, and there I was, still hovering around the same amount of downloads that I had the day before. And it was a really big disheartening moment to be like, oh no, what do I do next? And so the first thing that I would say is just be patient and plan on it taking longer than you think it's going to take, which means that your topic, the idea for your show, your mission, all of those things need to be a little bit deeper reasons why you're doing them, or you're just going to give up on it in 6, 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
Just make it a long-term commitment to doing this thing until you see some results, or for a specified period of time before you, at least a specified period of time before you reconsider doing something different. So for me, I told myself at the beginning when I launched that I'd give myself 2 years. If I can put out 3 episodes a week for 2 years, and I get to the end of that 2 years and I still have had zero traction, it's not done anything for me or for my business or made me any money or done anything that I wanted it to do, then at that point I'll sit down and go, okay, do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to just go ahead and stop? I think too many people never set up that expectation from the beginning. And so when they look at their download numbers in 9 months or 13 months down the road, and they know how much effort and work and time and energy and money they've put into it, they get really discouraged and just stop doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more like, hey, commit to this thing long term and have some patience and understand that, you know, at the end of the day, it's a question of, do you want the audience enough? Like, do you want this thing to work enough? Because if you do, like 5 years is still not a long time when you look at it in the length of your life, right? Like, you know what I mean? 5 years to be able to create yourself a life that you want to be able to live. Like, you know, everybody goes to college for 4 years, and that's to go get a
Exactly.
crappy degree that they're not even going to use after they're done, you know, graduating, or that crappy degree that doesn't even get them a job doing the thing that they want to be doing. So they have to go work a minimum wage thing or go get a master's degree to make it a better degree. You know, like people spend 4 years doing all that stuff all the time, but people won't spend more than 6 months creating content on a podcast because they didn't get 1 million downloads in that period of time. So give yourself some time to learn the ins and outs, to put in some reps, to get better at creating content, to have better quality stuff. But give yourself some time to figure this thing out, because just like anything else, you know, you're not going to be great when you first get started, but if you stick with it, then the end game pays off significantly.
Yeah, for real. Because I think there's so much stuff that we see online, don't we, that is marketed where people think that in 90 days they can achieve something, whether it be, it's not just podcasting, it's like YouTube or any kind of marketing or content. And I do a lot of Amazon. I'm an Amazon expert as well and do coaching around Amazon. And just do like a small program because majority of my time takes up doing my own e-commerce business. But there's a lot of people that give up. I've seen people come in the Amazon world and leave within like months, you know, and it's
Right.
like you know, you're setting up a business and creating a podcast is exactly the same, isn't it? It's anything. It's you're
Yep.
there for the long term and you've got to have a strategy as well. So it's
Exactly.
great to hear you do that because I was excited to get you on here because I thought he's doing the podcast well. I'm still got a baby podcast here, really, coming up to a year. But I've definitely seen over the last couple of months some traction on it now, which
Well,
shows
that's awesome.
that.
And you're seeing it pretty early on if it's less than a year.
Mm,
So congratulations to you.
yeah, brilliant. So, what would you say? What impact it's made on? Obviously, it's changed your life as regards to because obviously with this being the Freedom Podcast, we've covered mindset there because you've kept on for you gave it 2 years. Um, but kind of what impact financially then has it had for you? Thinking of freedom, because I know when I ask a few questions when you book this, and I know you said that it's giving you that time freedom really to be able to choose the things you want to do now.
Yeah, it's in the context of, like, whenever I talk about money, it's usually in the context of freedom, because that's why I like money. You know, like money just gives you the ability to choose what you want to do or what you don't want to do. And that's definitely the way that I've looked at it. So when I quit door to door to do this podcasting thing, it was, like I said, the first time I ever, said goodbye to six figures, and then went down to, I think I was making, I don't know, $4,000 to $6,000 a month or something like that at the time. But all I knew was that this had a lot of potential and that I actually enjoyed doing it. And there's probably a good combination there. So we just kept getting to work. And so that led to almost like $500,000 a year the year after that. And then another $500,000 a year after adjusting to everything that happened with COVID and everything. And then now on track to hit 1 million this year with the addition of a couple team members and some expansion that we're able to do that we worked through during COVID. And then also attacking our software company, and none of that would have been possible if it weren't for the podcast.
Yeah,
So it's had a tremendous impact on all of those things. I get to work from home, and really, when I say work from home, it means really work from anywhere I am, so we can leave on a trip and I can work while I'm there, and we can just go enjoy, the beach in San Diego. Or we went to Coronado Island a couple months back, and just my wife works virtually as well. So we were just able to go there and hang out for a few days, but then both of us worked in the morning until like noon, and then just got to hang out and enjoy the rest of the day, working wherever we want to, essentially. And it's super helpful. We have two small kids, so it's super helpful to be able to kind of be around them when we want to be around them, and then we have a nanny that comes over in the morning, and we just go up to the home office where I'm in right now and get some work done. And it's just super flexible, and we have all the freedom in the world to do basically anything that we really want to do within certain, boundaries or within reason.
Yeah, yeah.
At this point, we're not billionaires or anything like that. But we can basically, go where we want and do what we want and eat where we want and travel how we want. And all of that is due to the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really inspiring to hear. That's why I set this podcast to kind of inspire people to really go after their ambitions and dreams, really. Because it does take commitment, it does take hard work, it doesn't happen overnight. But you can, get the fruition of your rewards if you put the time in and be consistent, really. Um, I think the only other thing I was going to say was about balance, and you kind of covered a little bit of it there, with being able to sort of travel around. And what challenges would you say you have with balance, though? Because I know I sometimes feel like I'm a little bit of a workaholic.
Yeah,
I've got to
sure.
admit, and I have to diarize things, or time for me, because especially this last 12 months, because in the UK we've had lockdown after lockdown. So I live for travel, and I've just not been able to do it, and I'm not even
Yeah.
getting to go to like Hong Kong or China and all these different restrictions. And my children, I'm a single parent, my children are like 13 and 10 now, so it's a bit, they're getting to that part where it's like a bit uncool to hang out with mum. I'm having to like force them to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not forced, but Um, so how do you get the balance? Because like I say, I have to put things in my calendar to make sure I do it these days.
Yeah. First of all, I think balance is a myth. I think real balance is a myth. I don't think that it's possible. I think that there are seasons, and I think that there is presence. And so, what I mean by that is sometimes you go through seasons of hustle, and you're probably going to be working more for these 2 or 3 months. And to me, I honestly, I sit down with my wife and I explain those things, where it's like,
Yeah,
hey, babe, I think these next couple months are going to be really, really busy for me. But I promise it's going to be worth it. And it doesn't mean that I neglect my family. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just
no,
saying
no,
that the people have this idea of perfection when it comes to balance, if their work and their family and stuff. And I just don't think that it's possible. I think that you're going to go through seasons, and then the second thing that I said was presence. So that really, to me, defines the relationship between what you do and what you don't do, which means that wherever you are, you just got to be present there. It's
yeah,
more important to me, in my opinion, to be present wherever you are rather than worrying about if you're balanced in terms of the number of minutes that you spent here versus spending there. It's just that if you have this time set aside for this, then do that and do that only. If you have this time set aside for this, then do that and do that only. But don't, mix and match and be doing other things while you're, previously committed to either working or spending time with family or giving your mom a call or fill in the blank, even hanging out with friends and having a social life and making sure that you're keeping that side of your life going, and cultivating those connections outside of even in just in a work context and whatever, so I think balance is mostly a myth, and I
mm,
think that it's just more important to focus your time and be present wherever you are, and then just constantly take account of those relationships and have clarity around whether or not this next season that's coming up is going to be focused on this or focused on that, and then you can kind of spread your time accordingly.
yeah. I think it's difficult in this world, isn't it, at the moment? Because the digital world, we've got all these different apps and things, got off mobile phones. It's so easy, like you say, to not be present, and you've got to really make sure you are, because just trying to do the two. We've all been there, and well, I've had moments where I've done that, and it's just your head just is a mess, really.
Yeah.
You're gonna have those segregated times. So I really appreciate you giving a whole insight in your whole journey. It's inspiring listening to you. And for people listening, how do they come and check you out? Because I know obviously your podcast is Build Your Network, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can go over to Build Your Network in any podcast app that you're listening to. And yeah, search Build Your Network, subscribe. Let us know how you like the show. We always love to hear from people who listen. And then the other place would be just my website, travischappell.com. It's a good hub. You can see all my social links and everything else we got going on over there.
Yeah, and we'll share those links for anyone that wants those in the comments section as well. So really appreciate your time, Travis. I always ask one final question, and you kind of covered it a little bit. But what does freedom mean to you in one sentence?
Doing what I want, when I want, with whom I want.
Love it. Thanks, Travis. Really appreciate your time. And I will see you soon.
Appreciate it, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And if you want to get more freedom in your life, then come and join Your Freedom Project Facebook group, which the link is below in the comments section. And I am giving you a copy of my Visualisation manifesting book. So manifest more freedom in your life and live the life of your dreams.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. Bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group. Now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back. Right now is the chance. This is an experience. It's the Freedom Podcast. Hey.